Hello, guten Tag und grüß Gott. Today is September the 15th, 2022, and it's a wonderful Thursday. But as you can see, I'm out in nature, I'm out in the open, and here the background is forest. And you know what? It's not green screen or anything like that. It's really a forest, and you can see it in the background. So, I'm in a wonderful part of the country, which is a Pacific Northwest, and it's currently overcast, and so the lighting is kind of iffy, but I think you can still see me. So when I step back, you can see more of me, as if you'd want to see more of me. Anyway, I wanted to make this video because an august event is happening, and that is in England today. Queen Elizabeth II is lying in, I think they call it, in state. And of course, the visitors are going past her coffin because she had died a couple of weeks ago. Not a couple of weeks ago, it was sometime last week. And the reason I wanted to make this video is because Queen Elizabeth II of Britain has had a lifelong and profound influence on me. Profound in the way that, I talk about it constantly, and I think I've even mentioned it in a video before, is that this was the very first time when I saw live television in black and white. It was the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. Well, the sun is coming out, as you can see in the background, and now this is really interesting. I should do this more often out in nature. In any case, so the lighting is all changed, and hopefully I look better. So Queen Elizabeth. So I want to retell this story, which I've told once before, because now I have spanned her entire reign of 70 years, which is now. So she was actually became queen in 1952, but the coronation didn't happen until 1953. And that's when my friend Kurt and I came home from school, or I think it was school, or maybe for lunch. I'm not sure where we were, because in 53 I started my apprenticeship that year, the apprenticeship as a machinist apprentice for Hermann Fauder, Weltfress Maschinenfabrik in Ludwigsburg, Germany. Anyway, getting back to that event, I remember walking up to this establishment, which we called, and it was called Foto Liebe. Foto Liebe, I guess his last name was Liebe, was really tied into the community quite a bit, because sometimes on the weekend in the evening, he would show Disney cartoons on the wall. He had a projector, and kids and parents and everybody would just kind of gather around, and watch these cartoons. That's how I became, became aware of Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie and all those things, and we loved those cartoons. And I think it was definitely not sound, it was just cartoons, but it was, movies. I mean, it's great, right? Free, So we were standing there, in front of this house, which was on a corner. The street side was had the windows, and the alley side, was just a wall, and the projector was pointed toward the wall, and it was evening, and it was wonderful. Memories, right? So anyway, Huber and I came to Foto Liebe, and there was a crowd, a small crowd. It wasn't too big, maybe a dozen people, maybe a little bit more, gathered around the window. And so, of course, we were curious, so we walked up there, and what we saw was in the display window, there was a television set up, and here was Queen Elizabeth II being in a drawn carriage, in one of those fancy carriages, doing the royal wave and all that. Although I'm not too sure about that. I made that up. I can't remember what she waved, but I think there was a wave involved. So the details kind of escape me, I mean, that was like, 69 years ago, okay? If my math is right. But anyway, so we watched this on television. Of course, this was a time when TVs in homes were relatively rare. But TVs did show up in the bars, and, the Bierstube or so. So, there was a TV in the corner. And my parents told us that they were going to the bar and watch TV. But, kids weren't really welcome in the bar too much. Although I don't remember a drinking age. There wasn't any drinking age. If we wanted to drink alcohol and the parents let us, we did, So, so there was that kind of freedom, There weren't those nanny laws to protect the kids, it was up to the parents to protect the kids, So the government had nothing to do with it, I think. Although, if abuse was involved, I'm sure they got involved in all that. We had all of the social BS that goes with a socialist kind of country anyway, in Germany. So anyway, so we watched this. And that's the reason I'm saying that Queen Elizabeth II, had a profound influence on me, because it was the first time I saw live television. Of course, that time, that's all there was. There was no recorded television, as a matter of fact, Khrushchev didn't become aware of recorded television until he came in Moscow. There was an American exhibit, evidently, and at that time, Vice President Nixon visited Moscow, and with Khrushchev, he was not a Stalin, so he was still a little bit easier approachable. But I remember, how surprised he was that he saw, as he walked through there, on television, he saw where he came in, and it wasn't live, and of course color television. The Russians didn't have color television either, And, talking about the Russians, here briefly, and of course they're at war with the Ukraine because they think that the Ukraine ought to belong to Russia. Well, all that. But in any case, it doesn't seem to be going well for them. But don't count the Russians out. I still think, that they're going to pretty much get what they want. I'm not sure whether it's Putin that gets what he wants, but I think Mother Russia will, because they're really a bunch of tough bastards, They beat the shit out of Germans in World War II, even though the Germans, were so technologically superior to them and laughed at their stuff, but they kicked our ass. Of course, they couldn't have done that without the help of the United States. I've talked on one of the previous videos, that I actually was a witness to some of this equipment that went to the Russians, because when the Russians came into Turingen, one day there were American Jeeps, and overnight there were Russian Jeeps. And the only difference was that it had a red star instead of a white star on the hood. And when I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, how come these Jeeps have red stars?" She looked outside the window, because we had a little veranda, where we lived on the street in the apartment. And look, oh my God, the Russians are here. And we thought we'd made it to the American sector, so now we had to flee again. Because the Germans weren't crazy about the Russians weren't crazy about the Germans. Of course, the Germans weren't crazy about the Russians either. Merkel, though, I think, was a good friend of Putin and was crazy about him, maybe. I don't know. But, she put Germany in that position where they are totally energy dependent on Russia, shut down the nukes, buying oil from Russia. And now the Russians are saying, hey, you NATO nations, you're putting the squeeze on me. We're going to put the squeeze on you. And, winter is coming. And the Germans and some of the European countries, they're going to be in a world of hurt if the Russians want to hurt them. Now, I don't know to what extent they'll do this because, after all, they're letting grain ships going out from, I think, from Odessa or Mariupol or somewhere in there into the Black Sea because the Ukrainian grain is important. It's a large percentage of the world production, and so if we don't have a sufficient amount of grain, third world nations, certainly going to suffer, and there'll be starvation and whatnot. It's amazing, how we're so dependent on grain. Well, we were hunter-gatherers, and then we decided to improve our lives, we'll live in cities, some 10,000 years ago or 40,000 years ago, and, well, okay. Hunter-gatherers, kind of disappeared let me just start over on this. Civilization is generally thought to be started in the Middle East, between the Euphrates and the Tigris and in that area there, because that was the Fertile Crescent, and so they cultivated grain and improved all that, and people were able to live in cities. We know the story of Gilgamesh. We thought that Uruk, would be there forever because those walls are so strong, and I don't know whether there's even a remnant of Uruk now. But I digress, because I really wanted to make this video about Queen Elizabeth. So she died, and you can look up the date if that's important to you, but it's really important to me that she was the queen, and so I'm not too sure about Charles. He's got a sordid history there with Camilla, and so I'm a little bit worried about him, but maybe he'll step up and be a good king. But it's interesting, as soon as the queen died, he became king. That was it. Same thing for Queen Elizabeth when, I guess it was her father, Edward, died, then she became queen instantly in 1952. And so then the crown basically stays with the new king. Although, I have to say that in Scotland, they had the crown with the queen still. So I'm not sure, about that pomp and circumstance and how that works. In any case, it's a sad time, because we've just gone through some really tough times, with COVID and all that. And by the way, COVID just seems to be in our rearview mirrors right now because nobody really talks about it, We bitch about Biden, giving away money, while the Fed is putting on the brakes on the economy. And so it is, well, so far he hasn't been able to give a hell of a lot away, but, the Democrats did pass this omnibus bill, that is supposed to be inflation reduction. Well, crap. If you create more money and pump more money into the economy, that just increases inflation. I don't know what the hell these guys are thinking. I'm certainly not the smartest economist in the world, or in America or anywhere. But isn't it a little bit obvious, guys? I mean, shit, right? You can't give student loans, loan forgiveness, and then raise the interest rates on everybody else. That makes no sense, Anyway. But maybe I just need a better explanation. Who knows? Anyway, so what else is going on in the economy? Well, the market is still in shit. In other words, the Dow Jones is, hovering around 31 or so. And, we just had a nice bounce of 200 points going up. And, of course, today it's all in the red again. It's losing a 0.5% or so far. And who knows where that's going to go, because investors, are kind of confused. Democrats are at the helm of the nation, That's a confusion right there, okay? You can't tell that I'm a Republican? Yes, of course. But anyway, politics is really a bad thing right now because there's such a huge rift, Where's Rayburn, some of these people that have, been able to work across party lines, in the past. That's not happening right now very much, O'Connell and Schumer. I'm not sure to what extent they're talking in the Senate, and I don't know what's going on in in Congress because the Democrats clearly can do just pretty much what they want, and that's exactly what they're doing in California right now. Supermajority of Democrats, you know. So here's what we became aware of us recently: any new construction with public bathrooms is going to be co-ed. Okay, I'm just using the word, but it has to have urinals and stalls in the same place. And that's Newsom, our governor, signed that stupid thing, Um, well, one of the things that will happen is it'll kind of put that LGBTQ thing into, at rest maybe. And maybe we do need a few more of those, co-ed bathrooms. But Jesus, I'm not crazy about having men and women in the same room. Doesn't matter if they're divided by stalls, or whatever. But in any case, so bathrooms are going to be far more expensive because security is also an issue. Wouldn't be surprised if they have to put cameras in there, and then somebody will hack them and the bathroom will be on the internet. Jesus. With people standing there, with their privates out and, wiping their butts and doing all these private things, that, well, the Romans had these public toilets, and they, so I guess that happened in the past, maybe we're regressing to this, but I thought, it just, to keep some things private, I think it's a civilized thing to do. So I'm not happy about what's happening in California because it's the supermajority can do anything they want, and they're doing really crazy shit. I don't know when we can ever reverse any of that stuff. The labor laws, for instance, that my wife is very close to because she's a labor attorney. They're so business unfriendly now that the companies are leaving California by the droves. But people like to live in California because, Jesus, it's basically like living, in the Mediterranean islands. So it's, with a nice kind of climate. And, I mean, where we live, it goes between 50 and 70 degrees, normally. And then every once in a while we have it in the 90s and sometimes... well, I haven't seen it in high 40s maybe, but that's it. Snow. Oh, when there's snow, that's a big deal. Snow at the beach. Oh, wow. Who did that? Anyway, all right. So this is kind of a sad time in a way, but remarkably, I have spanned that entire reign of the Queen, which is evidently the longest reign of a monarch in Britain, if not in human history, because monarchs didn't live very long. Even the ones that were healthy, the Praetorian Guards did them in or something. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and I wish you all the best. And I have to tell you that we must infect the universe with us.